What is it? I was thinking about this yesterday when you were on the panel, and then as I was thinking about today's discussion. What is it about being a film producer that gives you the charge? Is it the actual? Is it being on the set? Is it seeing the film with an audience? Is it putting the project together and trying to find, the challenge of trying to accomplish something for limited means, and like you talked about in that first film, with a limited amount of money, trying to figure out the location and everything else. Like what is it about it that is the most enriching for you?
I think it's all of that and more. That I really do. Movies is magical, right? I feel they can change the world. They can transport you. They make you a better person. And I love them. So bringing them together is fascinating to me. I'm always really excited, whether it's in the script stage, production stage, or post-production stage, really even in the marketing stage too, when something becomes more than you ever dreamed. That I have things that I think back on, like I try to find the things that I really care deeply about and use that almost as like a mantra to my safety net to go back on. And as much as you try to engineer serendipity, which is what I think part of producing is, it's hard to believe that we'll really hit that high point. So whether it's in the script and you've been slaving on something one way or the other way, and you decide to discard this, and you discover something else as a result, and it becomes really real. I love that. I love that back and forth with the writer, director, trying to figure out where we're going to take it and why. And then when you've gone through the hell of casting and financing, and you're actually on set with 150 people looking at you to deliver something more, and you can make that little adjustment, whisper in the director's ear, like, I didn't really buy what he was doing there. It seemed, maybe if you didn't try to look at her, like that, and then they do that, and you see this other thing happen. It's so exciting. And the same thing happens in the edit room. It is as bright as the people are involved in films, generally speaking. Sometimes it's really easy to miss the obvious, that thing that needs to come out of the film, or that thing that needs to stay in the film. And you can be in a room full of people who are totally connected to the movie, and then they all have these different opinions. And let's say you're in a work in progress. Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. I'm still, we submitted to Sundance on a 6-week cut. Usually you have a 10-week cut before you screen to anyone, because the time was so short. We had to submit to Sundance in 6 weeks. And we only had 2 weeks left to edit before we knew we had a lot of pictures to get it ready, so it was going to be locked on 8 weeks. And that filmmaking team is a collaborative, 3 young guys all under the age of 30 who have devoted themselves to each other, getting each other's movies made. And as soon as Martha wrapped production, the financing that I brought into the movie financed another movie for Antonio. So the 2 producers, Antonio Campos and Josh Mon, went into Paris to shoot Antonio's film, leaving Sean by himself, his support system gone. And I set up a screening for Sean at that week 6 in a room like this size. And if we could only do it in the afternoon, it was the only time available, which in New York means if you want film people to come, it was only screenwriters. Screenwriters have different concerns than editors, and different concerns than directors. And we were watching the film, and it went over very well. For those of you who've seen the movie, there's a moment where the cult leader sings a song directly and she connects. And they felt that this scene, that the audience generally male, thought that it was inappropriate, that it was outside the rules of the movie, and they encouraged me to cut. But Vanessa, my wife, was there and stood up and defended how much that song mattered in the movie. And the screenwriters were all somewhat kind of famous, Oscar types and so on. And Sean listened and he heard it, and he spoke later how important it was to hear the dissent, and the affirmation vote. And I think the song might get an Oscar nomination now. such, and it's used in the trailer, it's still there, and so that fragility and how, you know, how much you have to learn how to express yourself, your voice, your passion for something to your collaborators, and be willing to defend it. You know, like at the end of the day, you know, you do have, you know, it's both God and the devil that live in the details. You know, that you have to really care about those things for it to really, you know, sing. At the same time, I think a lot of times they won't know. A lot of the audience won't notice if, you know, you hold for 3 more seconds or not. But I do believe in pursuing that. And when you preserve it and it stands and it resonates with an audience, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's also, you know, I love the impossibility of making movies. You know, that, you know, maybe it's kind of something similar to Stockholm Syndrome. You know, in that you try to get a movie made, it's a 5-year process where, as the producer, not only are you not getting paid in those 5 years, it's not your movie. You know, it's the writer-director's movie, and you're having to fight to get it made, and you won't have any claim. And even like I was looking at something this week and seeing how few film festivals and how the sales people never list producers, and I really feel like the agencies don't care about producers yet. So much of the work, I know what it takes to get a movie made, and we do an incredible amount. And yet, I've come to like the fact that it's a difficult road with little support, you know, because it just says this to me, like, man, you better really care. Like, I enjoy the battle of, like, I love this film, I love this filmmaker, I believe in casting this actor, and you say you don't? You know, like, I'm going to show you, show you, motherfucker, that this film needs to be seen and that people will connect to it.
And then winning that battle.
Yeah, and then so what? But it's like, I enjoy that. I did a movie called The Door in the Floor with the novelist John Irving, based on his novel Widow for 1 Year. And when I was in high school, John Irving was my wrestling coach the year that the world according to God had to leave us. But I kind of knew him a little bit from that. And so we had some shared things, and we talked about that shared past, and we both said, you know, we left that school with an incredible chip on our shoulder, you know, and that chip was our gift, you know, like it really did help us kind of enjoy that battle of pushing against things to get what you cared about seen and noticed.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question that I know is unfair, because I know you love all your children. But you talked about movies being magical, and you talked about the idea of something being more than you could have imagined. Can you pick out a couple of films that when maybe the first ones that come to your mind, as they just immediately trigger this feeling of like sort of magical, or maybe it was not what you expected, maybe it went in a different direction, but you appreciate it even more now in retrospect. And as a way also of giving people some tips on things maybe to go see that they might not otherwise see.
Well, I think the two that really come out in different ways for me for that are one, American Splendor, you know, which is a movie that I generated personally. That didn't come from, you know, other directors.
Anybody seen American Splendor? Yes, great.
Thank you. And it was also a long battle. I went down different paths trying to find the directors for it. And, you know, it had lots of good advice that came in from different people along the way. But Harvey Picard, the subject of the film, has been a big inspiration for me. But he was a difficult guy. And, you know, he first wanted to write the screenplay, and he wrote it in longhand during his lunch hour at the VA hospital, and to send us fax pages, you know, that were just like scribbles, and we typed them all up. And, but it wasn't a movie. And I went down and I spent time with him and shot footage. And it was during that period that it became clear that he had to be in the film, and it wasn't really about just him, but really about his family, his wife and child, and that process of how his life was saved by comic books. And I was struggling trying to figure out like who should direct the movie. And after that trip, it was like, well, it really should be a couple. I should find a husband and wife team because I want to capture that love that they have, as prickly as it may be. You know what? And it should be somebody that knows documentary film. You know, at the same time, because I want the real Harvey in it. But they should have an understanding of kind of how to handle a biopic in an unorthodox manner. And literally the next day, Bob Puccini and Sherry Berman walked into the office to go see somebody else in the office, and I saw them in front of me. I was like, Eureka, holy cow. They were a filmmaking team that I knew had written 2 biopics already. They had made 3 documentaries. And I was like, they're perfect. They didn't know who Harvey Pekar was. I gave them a stack of comic books with the scenes that I thought should be in the movie. I gave them the videotapes that I had shot, and I gave them the videotapes of the Letterman footage. And I said, there's a great movie here that I want to make. They read the stuff, they said yes. We kind of worked out the basic pitch. They came up with the whole intro of the trick or treat at the beginning of the movie and so on. And I had gotten some money for it already from one source, but I knew that source didn't love it as much as I did. And I encouraged them, they were going to LA to go meet Maud Nadler, executive at HBO, who was running the new indie division. And literally, she called me so that when they were leaving the office, I heard the door close. Like, it was right afterwards. She said, yes, I want to do it. They greenlit the movie on the first draft of Bob and Sherry's, and they only wrote one more draft after that, and it got nominated for an Oscar for Best Screenplay. And I think so much of that movie captures what I love about cinema, what I strive for in kind of creating it. And we were able to make it in a very unique situation because it was HBO. They did not make us have an answer on what the documentary footage would be. I didn't have the Letterman footage clear when we shot it. It was a long, ongoing process. We had no idea how we were going to do the animation. We couldn't afford the music that was in the film. And they gave us, you know, really the environment to create that. They wanted to keep the budget low. It only cost about $3 million to do. They may have been happier if it was a little bit less, but you know, it really was a wonderful experience. So that'd be one, you know, just how that all came about. And also some of those things like this, we were scheduled to go to Cleveland to prep, I think, on like September 15th, 2001. So it was right after 9/11. And we really had to give some thought over, you know, do we go make a movie, you know? It was also right around the time that they had been expecting there to be a SAG strike. And as a result, there was no other production. And, you know, those two things informed the making of the movie in kind of unique ways, too. The other movie I would say that comes to mind is The Ice War, Ang Lee's film. How many of you have seen that? All right. It's, you know, really super proud of that movie, and I think that's kind of a different thing that I didn't realize how